previously on Higurashi When They Cry console arcs.
そうだ。これ、ミオンさんが。シオンさんは必ずここへ来るから、来たら渡すようにって言われました。
ミオン？そんなバカな！お姉はもう20年以上前に死んでるよ。それってどういうこと？
おいおい。
Otbe and I turned to one another. After all, Mion Sonozaki was already dead. But if that was the case, then who was the woman standing before us that looked just like Mion Sonozaki?
おい、乙部。もしかして、俺たちが会ってたのは、幽霊だったんじゃ。
やめてくださいよ、荒川さん。こんな時に変な冗談を言わないでください。現にほら、足だって。
I don't know. I can't see him. Shion, move back so I can look at your legs.
シオン、ひなみ沢へ行きなさい。何？お姉、それってどういうこと？ひなみ沢に何があるっての？行けばわかるさ。あんたが今必要としているものがそこにある。園崎の跡目、みんなに認めさせなきゃまずいんでしょ？どうしてそれを？
My eyes were open wide in shock as I went to ask Mion for more information. However, Mion just flashed me an upbeaming smile and said, "Good luck," before vanishing into my dreams.
これでお姉は本当に死んじゃったんだね。
So she's super dead. First her body died and now her spirit died too. So super dead.
お姉が夢枕に立ったのはあれが初めてじゃないんだ。それ以外でもなんとなくだけど私はいつもお姉の存在をずっと感じてた。でも今はそれがない。お姉はもういなくなっちゃったってこと、なんとなくわかるよ。
シオンさん。
園崎ミオンはもういない。きっともう二度と現れない。ずっと私を見守ってくれていたお姉は私の身代わりとなって大切な役目を果たし、この傷とともに消えた。そんな気がするよ。
Sonozaki-san gently stroked the bell she received from Otbe of her fingers. It felt like she was trying to express her love and gratitude for Mion Sonozaki through her fingertips, and display her resolve to protect the Sonozaki family with that bell.
龍之介さん、どうしたんですか？大丈夫ですか？
Miyuki-chan held my hand tight while firmly gazing into my eyes. Could it be? Is that hand hold an invitation? Probably not. My heart was beating far more intensely than usual. But it was totally different tension from the gun battle earlier. It felt good.
みゆきちゃん。
龍之介さん。
With Miyuki-chan gazing up at me with a slight blush in her cheeks, my heart started beating so violently, it felt like it was going to burst out of my body.
みゆきちゃん。
Come now. Now's your chance. I pulled Miyuki-chan's hand in closer, and with determination...
うちの娘に、何
Oh, man. Well, this is awkward.
ええ。私、結婚して名字が変わったの。私たち、親子揃って刑事なのよ。さらに言えば、私の夫も刑事。
And I'm sure Daddy really approves of that.
変な一家でしょ。
A family of snoops!
どうし
Miyuki-chan lightly smiled as she said that. I, on the other hand, couldn't laugh about it. I already did. Miyuki-chan was married this whole time? My shock must have been plain to see. Miyuki-chan deeply lowered her head and said I'm sorry several times in a row.
彼氏はいないんだけど、旦那様はいたの。最初はいたずらのつもりだったんだけど、なかなか打ち明ける機会がなくって。
俺も決めたよ。死者の霊ってのは確かに存在するし、意志は肉体が滅んでも残る。時には生きている人間の体を借りて意志が行動を起こすことだってあるんだもんな。あんたらに会えてよかったよ。俺はこの仕事を続けていこうと思う。近い将来必ず服部じゃなく本当の
荒川さん。
ま、その時になったら連絡してくれ。安月給で走り回ってばっかりの仕事だけどさ。
はい。
しかし参るよな。ヤクザのお家騒動はともかく、死者が生前のことを泣いて詫びたなんて話、週刊セブンじゃ絶対載せてくんねえだろうし、どうしよっか頭が痛いぜ。
みんなが死んだ場所。あの20年以上も前の事件で、お姉も友達も私が全てを失った。生き残ったのは私とお姉の好きだった男の子。その子もその後死んじゃったんだけどね。だからね、思うんだよ。あの日の爆発で私も一緒に死ぬべきだったんじゃないかってね。私だけが取り残されたと今日までずっと思ってきたんだ。ずーっと。
シオンさん。
Shion-san forlornly gazed on as the wind blew through the mountain of rubble. Has she been tormented for the last 20 years by the lonely thought that she was the one left behind? She abandoned the name Shion and lived her life as Mion Sonozaki to protect the Sonozaki family. Enduring that for all this time must have been so painful.
頑張れ、ミオン。私もシオンを頑張る。うん。ありがとう、シオン。頑張ろう、ミオン。困ったことがあったらいつでも相談して。私たちはいつだってそうやってきた。それはこれからも何も変わらないよ。うん。うん。
Sheesh. That's seriously what you choose to say at a bitter end. Even though she helped out back then, she's always butting in where she doesn't belong, treating me like a child. I'm an adult now, you know? Much older than you were. Seriously. Can't believe your last words were something so naive. And the word next made me sad, because you reminded me that you're already gone. I wasn't interested in reminiscing about the old days. I wanted to talk about those memories with you. I wanted to keep you by my side forever. Sis, everyone here started walking toward their own separate future. All of us started at a disadvantage. Otobe's future involved repaying a debt he could never pay off alone. Tawasan's future included being arrested and sent to prison. Sonozaki-san and Kasai-san's future involved fighting to protect the future of the Sonozaki group. And my future is to start building something meaningful in my day-to-day life, while panicking about the uncertainty of tomorrow. None of us will have it easy in the future. But regardless, we'll keep walking forward, fighting alone against our fate, for the right to say we lived. Neon Sonozaki and Hinizawa Village. Farewell, and thank you. A refreshing blue sky was spread out beyond the mountains, shining the light of hope down on our future. And so it continues. Greetings, my name's Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of the Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. So, we've got the true ending for this story arc out of the way. Now, all that's left for me to do is to see what all the other routes have in store before we can move on to our next story arc. So, I'm going to go ahead and just get started on that right away. And our first stop will be, instead of searching for Kurosawa, which is what we did the first time around, we're going to return to the assembly hall.
やっぱり集会所に戻ろう。
黒沢さんを探してあげないんですか？
Nope! Miyuki-chan furrowed her eyebrows and stared at me as soon as she heard my answer. Somehow, it felt like the tone of her voice was criticizing me.
そりゃ、俺だって探しに行きたいさ。でも、外はもう真っ暗だ。今から探したって見つからないどころか、二次遭難の危険すらある。それにこんな雨だし、夜が明けてからちゃんと探した方がいいんじゃないか。
Well, since Tawada originally had us go search for Kurosawa just so she could hide his body, if we go back in there now, I wonder if this whole thing is gonna somehow end with Tawada killing us herself or something. Very curious to see how this is all gonna play out. The look on Miyuki-chan's face indicated she still wasn't fully satisfied, but eventually she relented and nodded to me.
悔しいけど、龍之介さんの言う通りです。仕方ないですね。すみません。
Tawada-san walked up next to me and lightly bowed her head to Miyuki-chan.
どうして十和田さんが謝るの？
匠くんのことで迷惑かけちゃったから。だから。
こんな状況なんだから、しょうがねえよ。気にすんなって。
はい。
When I saw Tawada-san's shoulders droop, the guilt started to eat at me. Even though I did believe it couldn't be helped, I still couldn't bring myself to look her eye to eye. The rain began coming down even harder. We hastened our pace to nearly a run, and eventually arrived at the assembly hall. We stepped inside the vacant assembly hall and stopped near the entrance of the large tatami-lined room.
あれ？
おかしいですね。
The light was still on inside the assembly hall, but there was nobody inside.
園崎さん、どこへ行ったんでしょう？
She definitely told us that she was heading back earlier, so why isn't Sonozaki-san here? I took a look around, but I didn't see any signs of human presence.
ちょっと見てきます。
Otoe frantically looked around outside the doorway, but in this heavy rain and in the dark night, it was impossible to see anyone.
いいよ、乙部。とりあえず中に入って待ってよぜ。
でも、まさか、また、鬼隠しが。
まさか。だいたい、なんで園崎さんが？
Excuse me. I became startled as soon as I said that. Somewhere deep in my heart, I was starting to suspect that Sonozaki-san was involved in these people being demoned away. Well, indirectly speaking, she is. She's a resident of this village and a member of the 3 families that rule the area. Ultimately, she's a member of the Sonozaki family. A woman wandering around in an uninhabited village with a sword in the middle of the night. Moreover, the name she gave us was Mion Sonozaki, who supposedly died over 20 years ago. There are people here who shouldn't be here, and people who should be here that have disappeared. Just about everything feels off.
とにかく濡れた服を乾かしましょう。
Tawasen quickly took off her cardigan and spread it along the tatami mat.
龍之介さんもほら、そのままだと風邪ひきますよ。
ああ、だよな。
I followed Tawana-san's lead and spread my wet coat along the floor. I don't think it'll dry off like that, but I can't keep wearing wet clothes forever. After that, I saw Miyuki-chan taking off her jacket. Her moist t-shirt clung to her body, emphasizing her beautiful figure. And standing out against that slender figure, I saw a glimpse of her underwear line. Ah, Kurosawa, you scoundrel. What am I staring at?
どうしたんですか？
いや、別に。
I tried to hide it by mindlessly rubbing the wrinkles out of my coat on the floor. Miyuki-chan had a dubious look on her face for a moment, but then she plopped down on the tatami mat. Once again, we all took our seats around the center of the assembly hall. But the main difference from last time was that Sonozaki-san and Kurosawa weren't there, and that both of our cars had disappeared. Otobe seemed to be uncomfortable as he gazed up at the ceiling. I too looked up at the ceiling, and then looked around the room. Getting sleepy all of a sudden. Huge spiderwebs were strewn across the ceiling and the wall. There were icicles of dust hanging from various places on the ceiling, and posters for the Unikafuchi Guardians plastered all over the walls. Shovels and helmets were sitting alongside the wall.
この部屋って、ほんと昭和だよな。
I casually muttered that, but nobody said anything in response. That reaction illustrated how emotionally drained we were all feeling. I imagined the villagers over 20 years ago putting on these helmets, picking up these shovels, sticking these posters to the walls, and standing together in their campaign against the dam project. Somehow, I felt out of place here. It was disquieting. This assembly hall probably hasn't been used in over 20 years. If the people who allegedly died 20 years ago, or rather, if the spirits of the demons came to this assembly hall, searching for food, I shuddered as the thought crossed my mind. Our cars were taken, and our only working phone was destroyed. So now we're stuck here with nothing we can do about it. And this was all the work of some enigmatic individual. Maybe we'll never be able to step foot outside of here. Should we just sit down and wait for death?
龍之介さん、ひょっとして風邪でもひいたんじゃ？
Why, is my nose running?
大丈夫ですか？
Yuki-chan put a hand on my knee, but I promptly brushed her hand aside.
龍之介さん？
Yuki-chan just stared at me, looking bewildered. Suddenly, I realized what I had done.
悪い。そんなつもりじゃなかったんだけど。
いえ、いいんです。
Yuki-chan gave me a faint, half-hearted smile and lowered her head, like she was trying to escape from my gaze.
ごめん。考え事をしてて、つい。
I turned my gaze downward to avoid making eye contact with her. Miyuki-chan is hiding something. There's no doubt about it. But what could it be? Though I was clearly enamored of Miyuki-chan, I simply couldn't bring myself to trust her. But even so, I'd like to believe her. I'd love to believe that Miyuki-chan is a normal freelance writer. But the basis for that was far too flimsy. Why are Miyuki-chan's bags filled with blank pages disguised as investigative material? Why is Miyuki-chan so adverse to talking about herself? And why was she so knowledgeable on the subject of Hinizawa that she can even surprise an occult writer like myself? That's not all. How is she so knowledgeable about the geography and international affairs of Hinizawa? How can she know not just the existence of this assembly hall, but even its precise location?
このまま
Just then, silence was broken by Otobei's voice.
このまま朝までこうしてなきゃいけないんでしょうか。
そういうことになるんだろうな。それがなんだよ。言いたいことがあるなら言えよ。
いえ。
Then Otobei lowered his head between his knees, with a glum look on his face. What a pain. If you have something to say, you have to speak up. Just as I was about to say that, I suddenly started to feel like something was wrong. Until morning. Isn't it odd for Otobei to say that in the first place? Otobei called the police a little while ago. If that's the case, he should be the person who has the least reason to think we'll be stuck here until the morning, right? That's a good point. But even so, why does his face look so uneasy?
ねえ、乙部君。
はい。
さっき警察にかけた電話、少しは繋がったんでしょ？どこまで話せたの？
どこまでって、それは、
Otobei stammered and turned away from Miyuki-chan. Apparently she was thinking the same thing.
そうですよね。警察が来たら、警察の車で帰ればいいんですよね。明日になったら僕たち、ここから出られるんですよね。
そうよね。警察、早く来るといいわよね。
Yuki-chan sounded non-committal. In fact, she sounded rather cynical. Looking over at Tawada-san, she was sitting with her arms around her knees and seemed on the verge of falling asleep. Her hair was draped over her face, so I couldn't discern her expression.
十和田さん、大丈夫か？
Tawada-san raised her head. Her eyes were open wide. Her face was starting to turn blue, and her lips were looking pale. And her body was lightly trembling.
十和田さん？
平気です。
十和田さん、本当に大丈夫？
Miyuki-chan put a hand on Tawada-san's shoulder, and then she held her hand to Tawada-san's cheek and forehead.
すごい冷えてるじゃない。さっきの雨で？
いえ、これくらい大したことないですから。
Tawada-san gently pulled Miyuki-chan's hand away from her cheek.
構わないでください。本当平気ですから。
Tawada-san shuddered after a light sneeze. That's the first sign of catching a cold. If left untreated, it'll only get worse.
ちっとも大丈夫じゃねえよ。マジで風邪かもな。なんとかしないと。
Because God forbid we get the sniffles too on top of everything else, huh? As Tawasan brushed my hand aside, I took a look around the assembly hall. Oh yeah! Oh hey! Sonozaki dogs! You better not come over here or I'll blow my nose on you! There may be futons and other things inside the closet. And there's a small kitchen in the back. As long as there is a pot or a kettle, I should be able to do some basic cooking here. After thinking it over, I called out to Tawada-san. Oh, okay. I'm just gonna save this right here. Would you like some tea?
お茶でも入れようか。
Maybe green tea? We were all feeling cold, so drinking some tea might help us feel better. I walked over to the kitchen and casually turned the faucet on the sink. But no matter how I turned it, not even a single drop of water came out.
あ、そうか。
Damn 20-year-old faucet and piping. They're all probably rusted shut. This is a ghost town after all. I initially thought I'd be able to get some water and light the stove, but after giving it a little more thought, it seemed natural that those facilities wouldn't work. With that in mind, I suppose it's fortunate that we even have electricity.
水なんて出るわけないよな。
龍之介さん、お茶なら私が入れましょうか。
What, are you gonna get a bucket and fetch some rainwater and boil it or something? Yuki-chan followed behind me with a kettle and a water bottle in hand. Naturally, she was completely ready to act.
お、用意がいいね。
キャンプ道具一式あれば大抵のことはできますから。
Yuki-chan winked at me as she poured the bottle of water into the kettle. And then, I twisted a knob on the stove. But even though I did, I couldn't hear the clicking ignition sound. When Miyuki-chan saw that, she opened the compartment under the stove. The batteries had leaked out, and the ignition switch was covered in rust.
これはダメですね。
だな。それによく考えてみれば、もし電池が使えたとしても、ここにガスが通ってる可能性も低いか。
それもそうですね。あ、龍之介さん、ちょっと待っててもらえますか。
おう。
Miyuki-chan stepped out of the kitchen after saying that, without waiting for my reply. With nothing else to do, I casually opened the door under the sink to see if anything was in there. The moment I did, a cockroach came crawling out. Uh-oh, does it fly? Then, that filthy creature made its way out the window. For a while, I stood there paralyzed. Well, hey, at least it didn't fly into your face. I've had that happen to me once. It scared the shit out of me.
ビビった。
I heard laughter coming from behind me. It was Miyuki-chan. Hey! Yuki! Cockroaches are no laughing matter. Especially the ones that fly.
みゆきちゃん。
龍之介さんって本当面白いですよね。
I'm glad my suffering and fright amuses you. Sadist.
面白い。
だってゴキブリにあんなに驚くなんて。
I like to see one fly into your face and you not get shocked by it.
そりゃ驚くでしょ。で、みゆきちゃん、もしかして全然平気なの？
たかがゴキブリじゃないですか。ただの虫ですよ。虫。
We'll see how long you're... Yeah, well, I like to see you say that when you got one flying right in your damn face. Like it's a freaking missile.
そりゃそうだけど。じゃあ、平気で新聞紙なんかでバーンと叩いちゃうタイプ？
殺すほどのこともないですよ。ゴキブリはただの虫ですからね。それ以上でもそれ以下でもないんです。
A frank reply. Yuki-chan opened the sink door and peered inside as if to show off she wasn't bluffing.
私、必要以上の殺生はしたくないんです。だから、虫が出てきても被害がない限りは殺さない。野外活動でもちょっと変わってるって言われましたけどね。
Those things can cause damage to a person's mental stability and sanity, especially when they fly in their faces. Would you kill them then?
そうなんだ。でもそれって根が優しいんだね。
優しいっていうのとはちょっと違うかもです。殺すのは必要最低限だけ。
When things go for your face, killing them should absolutely be necessary.
死ぬ間際の相手の顔なんてそうそう見たくないですから。
You won't see the look on someone's face if their face is covered by a bug!
相手の顔？
そうです。恐怖と絶望でいっぱいの目。
Well, my eyes were probably filled. My eyes were probably brimming with both of those, along with pure shock. You know, when the thing flew right in my face like a damn heat-seeking missile.
その目の奥には、こっちが呪われそうなほどの憎悪が滲んでいるんですよ。
I had too much fear and despair to feel hatred and malice, at least for the first 4 seconds. Hatred? In the eyes of a cockroach. And now I'm just picturing a little cartoon cockroach with angry eyebrows looking up at me. Yuki-chan spoke brightly, but despite that brightness, I felt perplexed by the subtle nuance in her choice of words. When Yuki-chan said that, I wasn't sure if she was talking about cockroaches or human beings. Probably the latter, given her line of work. You can barely even see the eyes on a cockroach. But in that case, that means Yuki-chan has seen the hateful eyes of someone on the brink of death. And that means if she was looking into the eyes of a person while being killed, then Yuki-chan was the one who carried out that killing.
確かにまあ、憎悪に満ちた虫の目なんて見たくねえよな。
本当ですね。
I smiled brightly and laughed to chase away my miserable thoughts. Yuki-chan casually responded and put it down the portable stove she was carrying.
お、用意がいいね。
Yuki-chan accepted my compliment with a smile. Then she attached the gas canister and rotated the switch. Can't roast the switch, that'd be bad. Then you wouldn't be able to use it. I held the flame of my lighter over it, and boom! A grandiose sound rang out as the flame was lit.
よかったな。これでみんなで茶が飲めるな。
え？そういえば。
Yuki-chan furrowed her brow as she said that, then reached inside the cupboard.
どうしたの？
お茶っ葉です。お茶は持ってこなかったんで。
Oh. Yeah, that... You can't really have tea without tea leaves, huh? Well, is there some leaves from any of the nearby trees we could use?
うっかりしてたな。失敗です。
ああ、そうか。なるほど。みゆきちゃんも完璧というわけじゃないってことだな。
それはちょっと心外ですね。こんな場所でお茶を飲むような悠長が許されるとは思ってなかっただけですよ。
Yuki-chan puffed her cheeks as she said that. Well, I suppose that line of reasoning has merit. With that in mind, I joined her in the search for tea. But suddenly, my hand came to a halt.
どうしました？
いや、よく考えてみれば、あったとしても、それって 20年前のお茶っ葉だよな。さすがにそれってやばくない？
Either that or like wine, they could age rather gracefully. Okay, probably not.
言われてみれば香りも味もしなさそうですね。
Well, maybe the super bitter and sour flavor could really wake someone up.
まあ封鎖が解除されたってことは多分残留汚染とかは大丈夫なんだろうけど、さすがに食物はまずいかもな。
ですね。今更ですけどお茶を飲むのは難しいかも。白湯にしましょうか。
I looked back at the source of that voice and found Tawase-san timidly walking this way. And in her hands, she had a 2-liter bottle of tea.
よかったら、これ、温めませんか？
You didn't poison it or anything, did you?
飲み残しで、匠くんが口をつけて飲んでたやつだから悪いかなって思ってたんですけど。
おお、そんなの全然 OK よ。
You don't mind sharing an indirect kiss with Kurosawa, Arakawa?
っていうか、もっと早く言ってくれよ。なあ、みゆきちゃん。
ええ、助かりますよ、十和田さん。
Apparently, Miyuki-chan doesn't seem to mind either. Miyuki, what would your husband think?
よかった。それじゃあ、これをみんなで飲みましょう。
Then Miyuki-chan grabbed the bottle and poured it into the kettle on top of the portal stove.
いやー、助かった。腐ったお茶を飲んで全員死ぬところだったぜ。
龍之介さん大げさですよ。そもそもお茶は腐ったりするんですか？
I would assume so.
わかんねえよ。あれも一応植物の慣れの果てだからな。
ですね。とはいえそんなお茶を飲んだとしてももし死ぬとしたら誰かが毒でも入れたということでしょうね。
Stop peering into my mind and putting suggestions that I come up with into this actual universe you're in yourself. Taking anything from my head and putting it into your world is pretty much a guaranteed way to cause something bad to happen. My head is a bad luck omen, don't you know? Yuki-chan flashed a smile, but the look in her eyes didn't look like smiling at all.
おいおい、みゆきちゃん。それ冗談になってないから。
そうですよね。でもそういうことってありえるでしょ？
それはそうだけど。
I thought about what Miyuki-chan said. Our enemy had already cut off our means of communication and our escape route. If they intended to kill us all, poison would be a quick and easy means, or they could just shoot you. That'd be even quicker.
ありえるけど、それじゃここにいる誰かを疑ってるみたいじゃねえかよ。そんなことって。
冗談ですよ。そんな真面目に返されると私としても困ります。
Yuki-chan laughed as she pulled out the paper cups she brought with her.
あとは俺がやっとくよ。これに継げばいいんだろ。
いいですよ。私がやりますから。
そう？
Yuki-chan arranged the paper cups while occasionally glancing at Tawada-san and me. When I turned toward Tawada-san, I noticed she was still staring at Miyuki-chan.
私のはいいですよ。さっき使ってたコップがありますから。
いいのよ、十和田さん。紙コップいっぱいあるから遠慮しないで。
いいんです。別に遠慮なんかじゃないですから。
It seems like they were trying to keep each other from pulling any stunts. What's with this atmosphere? Don't you know? Once you start to doubt something, everything looks suspicious. No, that's not how it works with me. Usually when I doubt something, I doubt the something in question.
じゃあ俺はあっちに行ってるから、あとよろしく頼んでもいい？
あ、はい、もちろん。
Yeah, of course. Leave them alone together. What with the tension this high? What could possibly go wrong?
トーラさんもあっちに行ってていいですよ。あと私がやりますから。
いいえ、あとは私がやります。反町さんこそ向こう行っててください。
How about I just take care of it? Tawasen responded in a surprisingly bold manner. I suddenly turned back to look at Tawada-san. It seemed clear Tawada-san didn't trust Miyuki-chan. What on earth did Miyuki-chan do to upset her?
私がやりますから。大丈夫よ、十和田さん。
いいえ、お茶が沸いたら私が持っていきますから。
でも、
Miyuki-chan seemed equally perplexed by Tawada-san's stubborn insistence, which wasn't unreasonable. If someone completely shot me down like that, I'd feel terrible. I'd feel irritated personally.
反町さん、いいからあっちに行っててください。
でも十和田さん、顔が真っ青。
いいからあっちへ行って。
Tawada-san shouted to cut Miyuki-chan off. Otebe, Miyuki-chan and I could scarcely say anything. Since when was Otebe following us? We all looked at Tawada-san in astonishment.
すみません。でも本当に私は大丈夫ですから。ここは私がやりますから。皆さんあっちへ行ってくつろいでいてください。
Tawada-san stubbornly pushed herself to the front of the stove. When I thought about why she was going over there, an ominous thought suddenly came to mind. Maybe she doesn't want Miyuki-chan touching the tea? Oh yeah, that's right, she poisoned the tea. I remember now. She mentioned poison when she was joking around earlier. You see what I mean? When you take ideas in my head and then you put them into your world, it leads to bad shit happening. No way. Is Tawada-san truly worried it might get poisoned? And she's keeping an eye on the kettle to make sure? Ridiculous. Yuki-chan would never do something like that.
それじゃ二人ともあっち行ってなよ。俺が茶を入れるからさ。
荒川さんもあっちへ行っていてください。
I intend to step between the two of them and say something to calm things down, but Tawada-san pushed me away as well. In other words, she can't trust anyone but herself? Bingo! Can't be helped. For the time being, I urged Miyuki-chan to head back to the room with me. Miyuki-chan and I sat down near Otebe, waiting for the tea to warm up. I couldn't think of anything to say. Otebe probably felt the same way. He kept looking down the entire time, trying to avoid making eye contact with any of us. And Miyuki-chan was staring up at the walls and ceiling, looking bored. Occasionally, she glanced in Tawada-san's direction and let out a gentle sigh. Eventually, Tawada-san came over carrying cups full of tea.
お待たせしました。
As she said that, Tawada-san placed a cup in front of each of us.
すみません。量がまちまちになっちゃって。
ああ、その一番少ないのは俺がもらうよ。
大丈夫ですよ。私少しでいいですから。
Yeah, she's gonna poison us. I reached for the cup in front of Tawada-san, but she gave me a vague smile as she grabbed the cup in front of her, and in doing so prevented me from picking it up.
いただきます。
Please tell me your cop instincts are going off, Miyuki. Please. Otobe timidly reached for his cup. Everyone's movements felt somewhat stiff, or something like that. I took a deep breath to reinvigorate myself, and intentionally spoke in a booming voice.
それじゃあ、俺が一番多いみたいでなんか悪いけど、いただきます。
Of course, it was an empty show of bravado. And it's probably going to be your last one in this universe. I just wanted to do something to relieve the tense atmosphere, even minutely. I drank a sip of the warm tea, then suddenly took a breath. I could feel the warm tea slowly dribbling down my throat and into my stomach. Once again, I realized how cold my body was. We were all out in that ring. It's only natural. We're trapped in this village and staying up to avoid being demoned away. It's natural for my heart to have frozen over from all the anxiety and tension. This warm tea should unravel that tension. As I finished drinking the tea, I took a deep breath. Looking beside me, Miyuki-chan was sitting there motionless.
みゆきちゃんは飲まないの？
はい。なんとなく気が進まなくて。
Miyuki-chan stared at the paper cup sitting in front of her. She was that suspicious of Tawada-san. There was no reason for her to hesitate like this. Oh, there is.
気持ちはなんとなくわかるけどさ、飲むとホッとするかもよ。
本当、お茶ってなんかホッとしますよね。
After finishing his tea, Otobe leaned his back against the wall and closed his eyes. And shortly thereafter, Otobe fell asleep with a comfortable look on his face.
そうそう。一息つくっていうかさ。
Oh yeah, that's right. There's actually sleeping medication in here. She poisoned Kurosawa and then killed him after putting him to sleep. That's right. I lowered myself down to the tatami mat and used my arm as a pillow. On the verge of closing my eyes, I took a glance over at Tawada-san. Tawada-san continued staring at us, with the paper cup still in hand. The tea in her cup hasn't gone down at all. I tried to say something to Tawada-san, but an intense lethargy suddenly overwhelmed me, suddenly forcing my eyes closed. New tips unlocked, sunset, and newspaper article. What do we have here? Did I already see these tips?
あら？どうしました？千秋ねえ見て、まちちゃん。なんだか一雨来そうな天気じゃない？そうかな。
Chiaki-san was leaning practically sideways to peer out the window, so I looked up at the sky. And she was right about that. The sky was looking a bit dark. Still, the sunset was able to paint a wide area in a bright vermilion hue. It was beautiful.
ねえ、芥川さん。ちょっとだけ窓を開けてもいいですか？
ああ、いいよ。
The driver, Akutagawa, undid the lock. Then I opened the backseat window. As soon as I did, I could hear the faintly echoing chorus of the Higurashi, and a cool breeze blew some fresh air into the car.
きれい。
I could never see anything like this back in the city where I lived. This was great big sky in the truest sense. There were no knowing buildings to block the view, and the glow of the sunset was able to reach everything it could see.
ほら、千秋さんもこっち来て見てみて。ほんと絶景だよ。
ええ、本当ね。
Chiaki-san smiled bitterly as she looked up at the sky from behind my back, and I could feel the loneliness in her voice as she said that.
日暮らしが鳴いて、鳥が飛んで、木々が生い茂って、ここが廃村なんて、なんだか信じられないくらいだわ。
Ghost Town. Hearing those words reminded me of what we came out here to do. That's right. Nobody lives out here anymore.
ねえ、乙部くん、どうしてこの村には誰も住まなくなったか知ってる？
Considering what this place is, how do you not know?
さあ、知らない。雑誌にはただのオカルトスポットって紹介されてただけだし。
Otube-kun was sitting in the front passenger seat, gazing at the outside scenery as he gave that half-hearted answer. Somehow, he didn't seem all that interested in the place where we were headed. It seemed like his thoughts were elsewhere.
千秋さんはどうです？
私もあまり知らないの。昔、何か大変な事故があったってことぐらいしか。
そうか。ひなみ沢大災害のことなんて若い子は知らないんだね。
芥川さんはご存知なんですか？
ああ、20年くらい前かな。一時期大騒ぎにもなったんだよ。
大騒ぎ？
I leaned forward and looked at the driver's seat. Hinizawa-san continued to focus on his driving, but nodded at me through the rearview mirror.
大災害が起きる前まで、ひなみ沢は誰の関心も集めない、よくある日本の忘れられた小村に過ぎなかった。だけど、昭和58年の6月に全てが変わってしまった。
一体何があったんですか？
村人が寝静まった深夜に突如上流の沼から猛毒の火山性ガスが発生して村の全域を飲み込んだのさ。そしてたった一夜にして2000人もの命が奪われた。
Anyone who saw the unthinkable, horrific state of that disaster with their own eyes must have been terrified of the destructive power of nature. Japan has always had a lot of volcanoes. Even though volcanic zones have periods of inactivity, there's no guarantee how long it'll be until they release their fury. And geologically speaking, it's difficult to find a region that doesn't have any poison gases lurking underground. So it was natural for people to think it could happen in my town too. And as a result, cases of people suffering severe anxiety continued to pop up.
でも騒ぎはそれだけでは収まらなかった。
Relatives of people from Hinizawa village believed that the gas disaster was caused by their local god, and they started a commotion about the curse of Orishiro-sama. And then, the people who were afraid of the curse started acting possessed, engaging in strange behavior, and involving surrounding people. In some cases, even carrying out bizarre murders. Those incidents only exacerbated the fear and anxiety that people were feeling at the time.
お社様のたたり？
ああ。そしてそれに過剰反応する形で村の縁者を排斥しようとする差別意識と機運が全国に吹き荒れた。実際根も葉もない噂だけで社会的な制裁を受けたり将来の進路を閉ざされたりしてね。今でもそこの出身というだけで就職や結婚に障害が発生した話も聞いている。
まるで異端者狩りですね。
Pretty much.
まったくだ。そして その騒ぎの中心になったのがここ南沢村だ。だからここは日本の歴史上から抹殺された文字通り幽霊の村なんだよ。
The bliss I was feeling until a moment ago was cast aside. And so, I closed the window. Something about the air started to feel wrong, and I suddenly began feeling nauseous.
あとガスはその後も不定期に噴出を続けてね。こうして立ち入り禁止が解かれるまで20年以上もの歳月を要したんだ。さすがに今はそれもなくなっていると思うけどね。
嘘みたいね。こんな綺麗な村が少し前まで毒ガスで覆われていたなんて、私にはとても信じられない。
幽霊の村って思い出したんだけど。
Just then, Otobe spoke up while playing with his cell phone in the passenger seat.
この村出るらしいんだ。あっという間に一夜にして滅んだせいで自分の死に気づいていない村人たちの霊が。
そうなんだ。
Indeed, if they died so quickly that they didn't even know what was going on, their spirits might appear without even ever knowing that they died. But that's alright. No matter what form they take, it's better than never seeing them again. Try telling that to any victim of body horror in a horror movie. I'm sure they would strongly agree with you.
死者の村か。その出てくる霊ってやっぱりこの村で死んだ人限定なのかな。他のところで死んじゃったら会えないのかな。
まちちゃん？
Enough of that. Either way, I'll meet them soon enough. I'm sure I'll see everyone soon. Well, I think that actually was a brand spanking new tip. I didn't think we'd get more of these. Guess it was most definitely worth the detour on these other routes after all. Around 4 p.m. on the 24th, 911 operators received a message stating several gunshots were heard in the university hospital parking lot, and a woman had collapsed. Emergency responders transported the victim to a nearby hospital, but she was already comatose and in critical condition. It was later discovered that the woman visiting the hospital was Akane Sonozaki. Wait a minute. Did I already see this one, though? The acting head of a regional mob organization known as the Sonozaki Group. The Metropolitan Police Department is investigating the incident as an attempted murder. The Tokyo Metropolitan Government is also investigating its relationship to a series of conflicts over the Sonozaki Group's succession, following the death of the group's leader last year. Okay. Yeah, I think I've already seen this tip. Well, assuming I haven't just simply forgotten the sunset tip, it's interesting that we get one new tip, but another one that I've already seen from the other route. Let's continue. I was having a dream. The sun was beginning to set, and I had decided to laze my entire afternoon away with a beer in hand. Several empty bags of chips and magazines were scattered around the tatami floor. A blank word processor document was still open on the laptop screen. There hadn't been a single work request in the past month. Every story I pursued has been flat out rejected. It was a rotten situation. An oppressive heat and the cries of the large brown cicadas came pouring in through the open window. Meanwhile, the ear-splitting ringing of the phone ripped me from my slumber and pulled me back to reality. Should I answer? What should I do? I wet my tongue with a swig of the beer in hand. It was nasty and lukewarm. I reluctantly reached for the receiver, thinking it might be a work request, and was greeted by the hoarse voice of an old woman.
あんたが龍之介か?
I'm dreaming about that summer. That was late in the summer of 2003.
私はあんたのお父さんの母親や。
Oh, this is when your grandparents first contacted you about your father, huh?
Huh?
That unexpected self-introduction left me at a loss for words. My father's mother. In other words...
つまり、あんたのおばあちゃんやな。私らもあれに子供がおるなんて知らんかったさかい。びっくりしたわ。
俺だってびっくりですよ。てか、何なんですか？認知すらしなかった父が、今さら何の用なんですか？
用なんてない。話せば長なるけど、あんたのお父さんはとっくに死んどるし。
死んでるって、そんな。
8年前に釣り船の事故でな。で、残ってるもんを整理してたら、あの子の日記とか仕事のテープとかが出てきてな。その中にあんたのことが書いてあったんよ。
It came so suddenly, I struggled to understand it. But it did add up. Since I had plenty of free time at the moment, I hopped on the train that same day and headed to Osaka, where my grandparents lived. The elderly couple lived in an apartment in Osaka Prefecture. Based on my father's diary and the stories of my grandparents told me, my father was a journalist working for a weekly photo magazine in Tokyo. However, he suffered a mental breakdown after a certain scoop, and after numerous transfers, ultimately retired from his position as a reporter. He was acting strange at the time, and returned to Osaka where his parents lived in order to escape from everything. He also cut off all communication with the woman he was dating at the time. In other words, my mother. He didn't do much work after returning to Osaka. He dug into his savings while scraping by on a day-to-day basis. And one day, 8 years ago, he drowned in an accident where his fishing boat capsized. My father's life came to an end before he was able to recover from the hardships he experienced in Tokyo.
だから、あんたにやれるような遺産は何にも残ってないんや。悪いな。
いいですよ、そんなの。んなもん、俺だってもらおうなんて思っちゃいねえし。
I never met any of my father's relatives, so they were essentially strangers to me. I didn't have any strong feelings when I met them. My grandfather's eyes looked somewhat similar to mine, but that was it. And based on this passionate way they looked at me, they probably felt the same about me. They probably would have felt more empathetic if I was a child, but I was already a full-grown adult. That was the feeling I got from their expressions.
それでな、東京であの子、Hinizawaって村のことを取材しとったんよ。
Hinizawa？それって、Hinizawa大災害が起こった村のことですか？
そうや。そんで、 その村の生き残りってのを取材した時のテープが出てきてな。更新所使ってあんたのこと調べた時、探偵はあんたは東京で記者やってるって言っとったから、もしかして役に立つんじゃないかと思って。俺。
As she said that, my grandmother handed me 2 cassette tapes. The labels were faded and peeling off, but I could just barely read the titles. November 24th, 1983, Shion Sonozaki, and November 28th, 1983, Keiichi Meibara. According to my grandfather, these were recordings of interviews with survivors of the Great Hinizawa disaster of 1983. The tapes were in poor condition and likely to break at any time, but I decided to take them home anyway, just in case they sparked a story of some sort. The fact that these belonged to my father meant little to me. On the way back, I stopped by a second-hand shop and bought a cassette player they were about to throw away, then returned to my tiny apartment. I'd heard various rumors and theories about the Great Hinizawa disaster in the past, which means I might be able to write an occult article based on these tapes and sell it somewhere. With high expectations, I slipped the Keiichi Meibara tape into the cassette player and pressed the play button. Unfortunately, no matter which way I rotated the tape, I couldn't hear anything but harsh static and faint unintelligible sounds. I expected better results from something produced with such expensive equipment. And what's more, I didn't even get a return on my own investment here.
ま、20年以上前のテープなんだから、当然だよな。
Feeling slightly disappointed, I decided I might as well grab the Shion Sonozaki tape and try playing it. Despite my low expectations, I suddenly heard a voice breaking through the silence. Judging by the tone and intonation, she was female, likely a young girl. Perhaps she's the Shion Sonozaki from the label on the tape.
結局の言う通りだったんです。お社様は本当にいて、そしてたたりも本当にあった。そしてみんなその怒りを受けて死んでしまった。
Oishiro-sama? And the curse. There was a haggard tone in her voice as she muttered that. I quickly stopped the tape and carefully rewound it, taking care not to break it. Then I put my headphones and started listening from the beginning.
結局あの子の言う通りだったんです。お社様は本当にいて、そしてたたりも本当にあった。そしてみんなその怒りを受けて死んでしまった。
I assume by she, you're referring to Takano?
あの子が学校を爆破した時は、頭がおかしくなった末に、わけのわからない凶行で、よくもおねえをって思っていましたけどね。でもその翌日に、雛沢村の全域でガス災害が起こって、生き残ったのは、私と同じように、警察で事情聴取を受けていたケイちゃんだけで。
Kei-chan. I was confused for a moment, not knowing who that was. But then, I looked at the label on the other tape in my hand. She's probably referring to the Keiichi Meibara from this tape. Unfortunately, I had no way to confirm this information.
それにしても
I felt an eerie sensation as I listened to the tape. The idea that the Great Hinizawa disaster was caused by the curse of Oishiro-sama is one of the least credible theories at the moment. But, even at the time this interview was conducted, they likely doubted it. After all, even though modern Japanese people are quick to fear paranormal phenomena, they tend not to truly believe in it. They'd say that's impossible or ridiculous anytime it came up in idle chatter. The materialistic values of the Western world have penetrated into our society, turning our perception of spiritual or speculative phenomena upside down. But despite insisting that everything can be explained through science, they still find themselves fascinated with supernatural phenomena, and they can't help but fear they might be cursed for doing so. So, while they maintain their superficial posture of disbelief, they're still terrified to face that horror head on. They merely turn their eyes from its existence. But on the other hand, they have a desire to understand the things they fear, and they're willing to get dangerously close to do so. I think that's the true nature of people drawn to the occult.
じゃあ、お社様のたたりで火山ガス災害が起きたってこと？それってなんか強引すぎると思うけどな。
I heard an arrogant voice speak up shortly after the girl finished talking. That was the first time I heard my father's voice. It lacked the depth and astringency I would have expected, but then I remembered this was when my father was still young, and was convinced.
正直に言うと、私はオカルトってものに対して懐疑的でね。この目で見たわけでもないし、関係者から聞く話も前つばっぽいものばかりだ。だから私は、この災害に何らかの人為的な要素があったんじゃないかって思っている。それを君に聞きたいと思っていたんだけどね。
へえ、それ、少し前の私と同じですね。私も、たたりなんてものは信じていませんでした。災害が起こるまで。ねえ、おねえ。
え？
Just then, it sounded like my father's voice cut out after gasping. And then,
信じる信じないは勝手ですけどね。あんまりふざけてくだらない決めつけを続けていると、あなたもたたられますよ。まあ、実際にその目で見た以上、まだその減らず口を続けることができたら大したものですけどね。
what happened? My father's tone and demeanor completely changed. He groaned in astonishment, his fear audible through the static of the old tape. What could have happened? Maybe Mion spooked him. Or rather, what on earth did he see?
富武さんは喉をひっかいて死んだ。高野さんは山奥で丸焦げになって死んだ。お姉やリカちゃま、里子はバラバラになって死んだ。じゃああなたはどんな死がお望みですか？
なかなかに手の込んだ冗談だね。それはどういう意味なのかな？
これから足音には気をつけた方がいいですよ。道を歩いている時に立ち止まって足音が一つ余計に聞こえたら、あなたをたたるために後ろをついてきてるってことだから。ああ、ひょっとしたら今も聞こえるかもしれませんね。ほらあれ、本当に聞こえたんだ。じゃあ決まりですね。富武さんが自殺、高野さんが焼死、お姉たちが爆死なら、あんたは水死だ
Wait a minute. I thought it was Keiichi that predicted this guy's death. I jumped back immediately and threw the headphones aside without even thinking. What was that just now? And even more than that, the girl on the tape clearly said he would drown to death. My father really did drown to death, just as his prophecy foretold. I heard a footstep coming from behind. Wait. Please, just wait a minute. What is Orishiro-sama doing here? That moment, the tatami floor transformed into a dark void. If I fell into it, I'd be swallowed whole. Then, my consciousness quickly faded. My dream ended there, and I awakened. This looks like the ceiling of the ritual storehouse, I think. I slowly opened my eyes. The ceiling of an unfamiliar room was spread out before me. Where am I? I got up and took a look around. It was a spacious, tatami-lined room. I was dreaming. Oh, never mind. I guess we are still in the administrative building.
大丈夫ですか?
An unfamiliar man was kneeling by my side. What?
どうしましたか? あんた、誰? 誰って、あなたこそどちらの方ですか? 俺は、荒川です。フリーのライターで。
I struggled to piece together my current situation. Based on his outfit, he looks like a plainclothes officer. Probably a detective following up on Otobe's report.
練炭自殺の車、わかりましたか? はい? 警察の人ですよね。はい。
Can I see the badge, detective?
そうですか?
I wasn't thinking clearly at all. It felt like my mind was in a haze. How can I explain this? I took a look around. It was still dark outside the window. How long was I asleep for? There was nobody else in the room aside from this officer and myself. Huh? Nobody.
どうしました? 他の人は? 他の人? みゆきちゃん。いや、女性が2人と男性が1人、この部屋にいたはずなんですが。いいえ、私が来た時、ここにはあなたしかいませんでしたよ。え?
Well, there's a twist. What is going on? We were all here, drinking the tea Tawa-san brought us. And then after feeling relieved, we started getting tired and fell asleep. That much made sense. The question was what came after. Wondering how long I had slept for, I glanced at my watch. The hands pointed to 11 o'clock. Can't be. When I arrived in Hinizawa in Miyuki-chan's car, it must have been around 10 or 11. Which means...
今日は6月22日ですよね。え? まあ。
The policeman gave me a dubious look. For now, I asked him to verify the events that transpired before I fell asleep were just a dream. But it appears not to be the case. If we assume that, then what does this mean? We were ditched.
あなた、いつここへ来たんですか？
今さっきですけど。
Right. There were actually 4 people drinking tea in here. Paper cups that should have been sitting in front of us were all tidied up.
どうかしたんですか？
ええ、
There were no indications of other people. Where did everyone go? Even though I looked around, it appeared I was the only one here.
ところで荒川さん、さっき練炭自殺とかおっしゃっていましたが。
はい。
案内していただけますか？
As I sat there absent-mindedly, the policeman grabbed my hand and asked in that monotone voice. I gave him a vague answer, but for some reason, alarm bells were going off inside my head. Welcome to where I was 2 minutes ago. It feels like there's a far more serious incident going on than a group suicide. No, it's not just a feeling. Everyone is gone, aside from myself. Could this be another disappearing incident?
おまわりさん、
The policeman forcibly lifted me by the arm, seeming to ignore what I was trying to say. And then... Stab?
案内してください。練炭自殺の車はどっちなんですか？
それよりですね、今ここで、それよりももっと大変なことが起こってるみたいで。
ここでは何ですから、車でゆっくりお聞きしますよ。
The policeman tried to avoid making eye contact as he started walking off. There's something weird about this policeman. You mean besides his general demeanor? Up until the very instant he opened his mouth? Yeah, I agree. The alarm bells are ringing even louder inside my head.
どうしたんですか？こっちですよ、荒川さん。
I left the assembly hall, pretty much dragged away by the police officer. The rain was still coming down hard. A few more police officers waiting just outside the assembly hall. Yeah, I think they're actually Sonozaki thugs. Then, as I descended the stone steps, it felt like I was surrounded by them. A black car was parked at the base of the stone steps. Wait a minute. Why is it a black car? Even if these are plainclothes detectives, shouldn't they have come in a patrol car? The policeman I met earlier pushed me into the back seat, and then sat down next to me.
この人、練炭自殺見たそうですよ。ほう。
ええ、まあ。
車種は何人乗っていました？
何人って。
死んだ人見たんでしょ？
Well, Arakawa, did you see some corpses? I could hear a hint of curiosity in the police officer's voice. I saw a look of displeasure at the officer sitting next to me.
あんまりよくは見てませんでしたから。
ほう。
The policeman sounded disappointed as he said that. With no further questions, the car began lurching forward.
最近解禁されたとはいえ、こんなとこには人なんか寄りつきませんからね。あなたが発見していなければ、集団自殺の車なんて半永久的に見つからなかったかもしれませんね。その辺を掘り返したら 白骨の一つや二つすぐ出てきますよ。こんな村二度と来たくないですよ。
The officer holding the steering wheel spoke in a tone that made it sound like we were heading off on a sightseeing trip. The high beams lit the way as we traveled down the pitch-black road. No matter where I looked, I couldn't see anything but trees. The officer sitting beside me pulled out a cigarette and lit it with his lighter. The surrounding area was illuminated for a moment. In that moment, I noticed something red glittering between the seat and the backrest. A ruby earring? I'm certain that Miyuki-chan was wearing ruby earrings. Which means that was one of Miyuki-chan's earrings? However, the light disappeared too quickly for me to make certain, and the car was once again enveloped in darkness.
ああ、タバコ。いいですよね。
His unpleasant tone made it hard to say anything back. In my current situation, the stench of cigarette smoke was of no consequence. The question is, what was Miyuki-chan's earring doing in a place like this? There's no way her earring could have fallen out often here. In which case, maybe it's just a coincidence? Yeah, sure, let's go with that. Why not?
荒川さん。
Miyuki just so happened to sit in a car belonging to some detectives and police officers that only just now, according to one of them at least, showed up and found you asleep all by yourself. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Her earrings just spontaneously showed up here. Pure coincidence.
いや。
As I sat beside the smoking police officer, I held my breath and started thinking. What on earth happened to Miyuki-chan? Speaking of that, I was worried about Tawada-san and Otebe too. No way. Were they all demoned away? More like Yakuza'd away. And maybe these guys are the ones responsible? Those disturbing ideas dominated my thought process. The warning bells inside my head were ringing even louder. I wanted to get out of here. I wanted to get out of this car and run away as soon as possible.
それで、さっき言ってたもっと大変なことっていうのは何なんですか？
いや。
遠慮しないで言っちゃってくださいよ。
本当に集会所には誰もいませんでしたか？
いませんよ。
The policeman stared vacantly at me.
誰もいませんでしたよ。あなた以外はね。そもそもこんな廃村に人なんかいるはずないでしょう。もしかして幽霊でも見たんじゃないですか？
The officer completely rejected my assertion. Eventually, we passed a fork in the road and started heading downhill.
ちょっとこっちじゃないですよ。
いいんですよ、こっちで。
Are you gonna take me to the swamp and toss me in there or something?
いえ、練炭自殺の車はこっちじゃないですよ。今の道を左です。
練炭自殺。あなた、そんなものが見たいんですか？
The officer said that in a menacingly low voice. A chill crawled up my spine. These people, they're not police officers. Glad you finally picked up on that. Doubt sprung up inside me.
どこへ向かっているんですかね？
I tried my best to stay calm as I asked that. My heart was pounding so hard, it was about to leap out of my chest at any moment.
そんなこと あなたが知る必要なんてありませんよ。
The car climbed the mountain road, then descended. We passed by the swamp where the gas originated from, then drove along the river.
こっちは沖宮じゃないですよね。
だからあなたは行き先なんか知る必要はないんですよ。
The car pressed on in the drizzling rain, weaving through the darkness. Several months later, god damn! What the hell did they do? Lock me out in a cage out in someone's backyard or something? Several months later, summer had ended, autumn had ended, and the new year was about to begin. The editorial department at the Weekly 7 was bustling, like always. Phones were ringing, people were talking, and books and manuscripts were piling up on everyone's desks.
それじゃあ幽霊特集はそいつでいいか。
The faces of the young editorial staff members lit up once editor Kano gave them the go-ahead. Among the young editorial staff, Arakawa was absent. Kano quickly finished up the paragraph, and grabbed a cigarette, and sat down on the sofa for a much-needed break.
荒川がいたらもっと面白い紙面になるだろうに。
Well, hey, at least my boss praises my skill. Shame I'm probably not alive. I'm not alive at this point. He muttered that in a defeated tone. Ryunosuke Arakawa had gone missing after leaving to investigate Hinizawa a few months ago. There was a good chance he was caught up in some sort of incident. Though the police have been searching desperately, they still haven't found any clues. Check the nearest body of water. I might have some cement shoes or something keeping me there. Rumors suggest that the Sonozaki group put pressure on the police over the course of the investigation. Naturally, the Sonozaki group denied any involvement in the incident, and there was no evidence to substantiate those rumors. People on the internet have been whispering that this was the work of Orishiro-sama's curse. Word got out that Arakawa's father had also investigated Hinizawa in the past, so the curse claimed the lives of 2 generations of family.
たたりなんかで本当に人が死んでたまるかってんだよな。今頃あいつはきっと。
Kano smiled bitterly, then changed the channel on TV.
次のニュースです。今日未明、三重県木曽川の河口付近で白骨死体が発見されました。
There you go! Right near a body of water. The next moment, Arakawa's face was being displayed on the TV screen. Kano was so shocked he dropped his cigarette.
同地区付近でこの男性のものとみられる所持品が発見され、身元は荒川龍之介さんと判明。警察は現在全力で事件の解明に。
荒川ちゃん。
Kano rushed back to his desk and spread out a map. In addition to Mei Prefecture, the Kisogawa River also ran through Aichi and Gifu. Following the river upstream led to Hinizawa village.
一体どうなっているんだ。
デスク、幽霊特集の記事にこいつも付け足しましょうか。
A young editor watching TV called out to Kano.
ああ、そうだな。
Come on, man. People are just found out what happened to me, and already you're propping up my corpse for your articles? Show some goddamn ethics. His voice sounded surprisingly curious, which was to be expected, since this man wasn't acquainted with Arakawa. As Kano pondered that, he turned back toward the TV. curse of Hinizawa village claims the lives of father and son. Suddenly, tiles like that ran through the back of Kano's mind. And what happened to Ryunosuke Arakawa's travel companion Miyuki Saramachi? And the people he met there, Akira Otobe, Yae Tawada, Takumi Kurosawa, and Mion Sonozaki. Their fate was completely in the dark. The truth of this incident remains a mystery. The truth behind all these mysteries was swallowed by the village where man-eating demons dwelled. Well, I was expecting Tawada to be the one to do us in, but no. I guess thinking about it now, it was only logical that it would be the Yakuza thugs that would do us in. Since, you know, they were still very much in the area and all that. I kind of want to check out the other option right now, and see what happens there. But I don't know how long it would last if I did. If it lasts anywhere near as long as this episode did, just for this portion. And I think what I'll do is I will cut this episode here, even though it'll be a bit on the short side, and we can see what the other ending is, along with one particular path we didn't choose on our way to the canonical ending in the next episode. Assuming I'll have enough time to cover both in the next episode anyway. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, like I said, I know this is going to be a bit of a short episode, but regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of the Higurashi When They Cry console arcs. If you did, and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. And I will see you all next time for whatever the hell is going to happen when we offer Tawada a blanket rather than tea. Take care, everyone.